League of Ireland pod.
On Off the Ball.
Brought to you by the refreshingly alcohol-free Rockshore 00. Get the facts. Be drink aware. Visit drinkaware.ie.
I was going to say we're back, but the League of Ireland podcast breaks for nobody. So we're here once again as the League of Ireland returns tomorrow night. Vinny, Perth, how are you?
I'm very good, Nathan.
Gareth, McGlynn, how are you?
The very best, Nathan. What's a crack?
Shelbourne against Shamrock Rovers. Full live and exclusive national radio commentary tomorrow night on Off the Ball on News Talk. We're going to have Jonathan Higgins and Keith Tracy at Tolka Park for us tomorrow night. We got Derry against Galway United, Cork City against Bohemians, Pats against Drogheda, and then on Saturday evening it is Sligo Rovers against Waterford. The League of Ireland pod and Off the Ball is brought to you by Rockshore 00, refreshingly alcohol-free. Always be drink aware. Get the facts and visit drinkaware.ie. So many places we could start. Or is there, Gareth? Or is there? Because I feel really there's only one place we could start with his Ireland's top model himself, our colleague, our friend, Vinny Perth, who took a little trip to the seaside yesterday. The sun was glorious. It couldn't be in starker contrast to what we're witnessing here in Dublin. But there he was, down by the beach, sunglasses on. Like, people, there's Vinny who've watched your analysis and say you must be blind. And, well, I don't know. Maybe you're proving them correct there. What the hell is going on?
Give us a look.
I've sent you on the picture there, lads. It's up on screen now for everybody to watch. So Vinny is in, I don't know if you came straight from a funeral, Vinny, but you're going for some sort of dodgy Reservoir Dogs look. There's all sorts of names been thrown around in the office. I won't even bring them up on air. It's very unfair, Vinny. Can you give us the background?
It's all about promoting the league, Nathan. You should know that. I took a hit for the team. No problem with that. That's all I'll say.
Is that like, you know, I think there needs to be an investigation. Is that promoting the league, Vinny?
Nathan, I'm telling you now, I've been out with Vinny a few times. That's the best I've seen him looking in about 5 years.
Yeah, I have to agree with you there, Gareth.
Wow. You have the sunglasses on, but you still look like you're being affected by the sun in your eyes.
Yeah, 100%.
Where are you? This was for a launch for Virgin Media Sport. I think tomorrow they're going to be announcing their next run of live games, and they brought Vinny and Tommy Martin. And listen, it's tough to be in a photo with Tommy Martin. You're on a losing battle, and then loads of League of Ireland players in their short shorts. But you held your own, Vinny. You had
to be fair, Tommy Martin had a pair of glasses on, and he is. I'll give him a bit of credit. He's one of the better presenters when it comes to looks, Nathan. That's all I'll say. He's slightly ahead of you.
Second on a lot of people's list.
So I did struggle, and then somebody handed me a pair of sunglasses, and I was like, and some of the players, to be fair, and the players were looked at me. I became the senior person around, and I said, no sunglasses for the players. And but Mark Coyle looked at me and thanked me for looking after him. He wasn't having a bar of the sunglasses, so I took a hit for the team, put them on, and I'll regret it forever and a day. But hey, if it has us talking about the league, and it is what it is.
We're not.
We were out in Ringsend actually promoting the Ringsend Derby, isn't it? Yeah.
Are you there tomorrow night?
Yeah.
He'll be there tomorrow night. He was due to be there for Off the Ball, but here it's fine. Vinny's got his priorities in check. It's perfectly fine. You can catch him live on your TV screens. Will you be wearing the same suit and sunglasses tomorrow night at Tolka? Or is it a one-off?
No, I won't wear the sunglasses, but the suit might be similar, yeah.
I think those sunglasses suit you, lad. The aviators are nice on you. You look like someone of Tom Cruise.
All right. We move on swiftly.
This is meant to be promoting the league. It's turned out to be a bit of a distraction of talking about the league right now. And some rather, unfortunately, more serious matters. So in the last couple of hours, Drogheda United have released a statement, and there's been any amount of speculation over the past few weeks about Drogheda United's participation in Europe this year after winning the Cup last season because of their ownership by Trevella, who also owns Silkeborg in Denmark, and Silkeborg's qualification for Europe, and the fact that the way they decide if there's multi-club ownership and only one club can go in, it's the team that finished higher in their respective league, which was the Danish side. Now, there's been a lot going on in the background to try and find a way for Drogheda, and a lot of clubs have found ways around this previously, and obviously it's very high profile at the moment with regards to Crystal Palace and what they're trying to do and their ownership. But it looks as though Drogheda United right now are facing exclusion from Europe next season. What they've said is that the club can confirm it has been notified by UEFA that we are facing expulsion from the UEFA Conference League due to Drogheda United and Silkeborg IF having both qualified for the same competition. This is despite significant efforts by the club to work constructively with UEFA to make the necessary ownership and governance changes to allow both to compete. Over the past several months, they go on to say that they are devastated by the potential development and believe it will be both harsh and unfair given the way brand new rule changes this year have been, in our view, inconsistently communicated and enforced across various clubs. So they're now appealing the decision to the Court of Arbitration for Sport. And given that they're in the midst of an ongoing legal proceeding and out of respect for that process and of UEFA, the overall aim being sporting integrity, there's limits about what they're able to say. But what they are saying is that even at this late hour, they're fighting to do everything that they can to secure the players, supporters and community's place in Europe. They've been in active dialogue with UEFA for months and put forward a shared disposition, trust arrangements and various other undertakings consistent with recent CFCB precedent, only to have those efforts rebuffed. Nevertheless, we look forward to the opportunity to be heard at CAS, and thank you in advance for your support. So that comes from Drogheda United. But that case, as far as I understand, at the Court of Arbitration for Sport is going to be heard on Monday. The draws for Europe are due to take place this day and next week. But unfortunately, Gareth, right now, it looks as though Drogheda United are going to miss out on Europe, going to miss out on the experience of Europe. And from what I understand, it's still very much up in the air as to whether or not they're going to miss out on all of the prize money, $500,000 guaranteed in prize money for competing in Europe. This is a disaster.
This is an absolutely disaster. Can you imagine? I mean, they won the cup in November, at the start of November last year. How they haven't got their house in order for it to come to this is a disaster for them, for the players, the manager, the fans. It's on. And to be honest with you, when I heard about it first, I mean, it was a while ago now, I thought there's no way that they can do that. I mean, I do understand the majority shareholder on both sides, but surely that they could have come to some agreement and got their house in order for this not to apply. I mean, it's a disaster for Kevin, and I'm sure the ownership as well. I don't know how successful they're going to be with the appeal. They seem as if they've been hard done by. I don't know where they're going to go with it. But for the league as well, it's a disaster. I mean, for Drogheda to have won the cup, not to play in Europe. I mean, I think the last time it happened was Shelbourne ended up champions, and then Derry, we got in, but they had some sort of discrepancy. That's the last thing that happened. For it to happen again, when they went full time, all guns blazing, everything seemed to be going swimmingly with them. And for this to happen, it's a real... And then it'll have a knock-on effect. I mean, they're away now to St. Pat's tomorrow night. That will have a knock-on effect on the players. I mean, that's a major disappointment. Some of them players have never played in Europe before and may never play in Europe again. So they have that disappointment in the ninth hour. It's a disaster. The club have got to do everything in their power to get it right.
There's a few different parts to this, Vinny. The bigger conversation of the multi-club model and how that works across Europe and how it benefits bigger clubs and the sporting integrity of that model. Now, the Travella model, where they owned Walsall and then they bought Drogheda and then they bought Silkeborg, you know, we're not talking about a Manchester City style project here. And when Drogheda United won the cup, at that stage, Travella didn't own Silkeborg. It was only a few weeks after that happened. And at that stage, obviously, Silkeborg hadn't qualified for Europe. There is the question then as to the knock-on effect for all of the teams in the League of Ireland, of which there is going to be one, because what's going to happen here is if Drogheda don't play, the coefficient for the league will still be divided by 4 clubs, even though there's only 3 clubs still competing, which potentially could have long-term impacts as well. And just for, I think, the community up in Drogheda, Vinny, after the joy of winning the cup, that this is such a brilliant bonus. Never mind the financial benefits that go with it, but just that experience of European football, what it would mean to the club, the players, the supporters. To lose that it's potentially just devastating.
Yeah, I think first and foremost, it's a devastating blow for the players, the management, fans, staff, all of that stuff. That's really, I mean, I've said this so many times. European football is the highlight of your career. Like whether you play in it or whether you coach in it, it just feels different. You know, I know publicity around our league now has gone through the roof, and it's there for all to see, and it's now headline news in many examples. But Europe, it's just different, feels different, and it reaches far more sort of the sporting community. So it's a huge blow for the players and a huge blow for the staff and everyone connected with the club. But I'm not overly surprised by this result. In terms of, we spoke about it a little bit last week. We didn't know loads of detail, but I think the point you make there about Walsall and smaller clubs, it sounds like, and that's what people. But you can't make one rule for the likes of Walsall, Drogheda, and a different rule for Man City and clubs.
Well, I think the argument will be that there is a different rule for Man City and clubs like that, and maybe they are better resourced on the legal side of things, which means they've managed to expose every loophole that's in place. And in fairness, I think the problem for Drogheda is they too have been trying to take advantage of that loophole and put the ownership into a blind trust. The problem is they left it too late. So just for some background on this, the UEFA rules were that ownership model needed to be dealt with by June the 3rd. For this season, they brought it forward to the 1st of March. And by the 1st of March, you had to give an indication of what you were going to do. So, for example, from what I understand, Nottingham Forest only went into a trust in April, even towards the end of April, but they had indicated to UEFA already before the 1st of March what they were going to do. I think the problem for Drogheda, or maybe the case Drogheda are going to make, is that when this circular went around from UEFA last autumn, firstly, Drogheda United weren't in Europe. They also didn't own Silkeborg at that stage. So there was no real reason why Drogheda would have been aware of that change of date and have been aware that they would have had to go through this process because it wasn't something that was relevant to them at that moment.
No, I get all that. I think that's where it's extremely harsh. And ultimately, I'm saying to you, the point I'm making is they are entering the competition now and the rules are what they are. And that's why I felt UEFA would come down on them like a ton of bricks, because I think when you deal with UEFA, anything you deal with them with, it's black and white. And, you know, I know people would make different examples of different things, but generally when you deal with UEFA, it's black and white. The decision is being made. I hope they can win that. I think it would be great for its football if they could turn that around. It feels a long shot, but maybe they can turn around. It's just it's really difficult. I think the wider topic of multi-club ownership, and I think we need to be careful, because some people will use this as an example of saying this is why it doesn't work and it's wrong and all that stuff. I think multi-club ownership can be okay. You look at the benefits Drogheda have had over the last couple of years in terms of some of the finance they've had, the ability to go full-time each year is on the back of that. And some of the loan signs have been tremendous for 2 years. So the multi-club sort of ownership has worked for them. It's just, this is an awful thing to tell, and I hope it can be turned around. But like I said, coulda, shoulda, woulda, won't cut the mustard when it comes to UEFA sometimes. But hopefully CAS will see what you've just explained there, and it can be turned.
The financial side of it then, been speaking to quite a few people on this, and so Drogheda United are in the draw for the Conference League, but they have a bye through the first round. So Shamrock Rovers and St. Pat's are actually going to play in the first round. Both of those will be seeded in the first qualifying round. Drogheda go through to the second qualifying round where they'll be unseeded. But the hope at Drogheda is that because they have that first round bye and because they've qualified, that they will still get that initial prize money of €525,000. There's other people that say if they're not allowed to enter the competition, they won't get any of that prize money, which, again, for a club that has just gone full-time, albeit with owners who've just invested a huge amount of money to buy Silkeborg, is disastrous.
Yeah, I mean, that kind of money, you can't underestimate what that kind of money will do to a club in the League of Ireland. Listen, I know that wages have gone up, facilities, getting all that organised. It costs a lot of money to run a football club, but in any business, getting that sort of money handed to you, for at the end of the day, they deserved it. They qualified for Europe and they get it. But the fear is exactly what you said. UEFA will turn around and go, you're not getting the money. You never step foot on the pitch during a European match. But the question will be: do they put another team in there, or do they just? Well,
it won't be another Irish team, because no other Irish team applied for a license. If any other Irish team had applied for a European license, they would have been the team to replace Drogheda United. And I dare say, in coming seasons, that clubs that just missed out, and obviously Derry City were the example that everybody gave because of the fact that they were next in line. But in fact, even if you went all the way down the league, if Galway United were the only ones to apply for the licence, they were the ones who would have got in. And while I think people will understandably go, why wouldn't you just do it? Just fill out all the paperwork. I think it is quite an onerous task with, in all likelihood, little reward. But look, it's happened before. Then Pats get in when Waterford didn't go there. But again, and look, trying to compare Ireland and England, obviously the teams that seasons run in the more traditional manner, everybody who has a chance of qualifying for Europe come sort of February, March is putting their name in the mix and applying for their licence. If you're in the last 16 of the FA Cup, you'll throw your name in there. But all of these teams assumed, and maybe in a weird way, a positive reflection on Irish football, nobody's working on the assumption that anyone's going to go out of business anymore. The fact that nobody applied for the licence means we're going to end up with just 3 teams unless somehow they win this case at the Court of Arbitration for Sport.
Yeah, do you remember when Ireland got done with a handball? The fella got the FAI a few quid. We could do with sending someone over to see can. There's one not missing, but we could do with sending someone over and see can we get Drogheda a few quid as well.
Yeah, it is a real shame.
Yeah, no, a kick in the teeth though. Like, I imagine there's a certain amount of, like you said, I think the owners have big enough pockets, but at the same time, I'd imagine that money is budgeted within the internal running of the club, different bits and pieces. So yeah, it's a real blow for them. It's a real blow for the cash flow. And also, when it comes to their license with the FEI, I just mean their sort of league license, some of that money will be partly down in terms of used for certain offsets against wages and a little bit more expenses and stuff like that. So the FEI will have to be fair with them when it comes to sort of that license side of things. So yeah, it's really not good. It's not good.
And Nathan, is exactly what you said as well. I mean, the knock-on effect on the coefficient, that's devastating. I mean, the clubs, Dundalk, Shamrock Rovers, all the clubs that were involved in Europe over the last 15, 20 years have worked damn hard to get that coefficient up. For it to be damaged in such a way that because of this, that's tough to take as well. And it's, as you say, it's going to have a knock-on effect.
Well, the other argument against it, of course, is that would Drogheda United have won the FAI Cup if it wasn't for the ownership model? So,
well, that's what
Douglas James Taylor, Alicia Ahui, both on loan from Walsall because of
that's what I was sort of alluding to, Nathan. I'll let you say it because that my local Loud Derby might go against me, but that is the multi-club does work, and you can't have every club, but a couple of clubs in our league with a little bit of extra finance, like Drogheda have struggled for many years. Maybe back in 2000 and what was it, a couple of years ago, they done okay. Obviously, under Paul Doolan, they were excellent. Obviously, won a league title and stuff like that. But it's club like that haven't got the finance to compete with the Dublin club, so they do need a hand. And the ownership model has certainly helped them go full time, as we said, helped them sign players. And I don't think they would have won the cup or be where they were if it wasn't for that sort of. If you're relying on local sort of investment, it hasn't been there forever and a day. So unfortunately, that's why they are where they are.
And it's going to make for a strange weekend. You touched on 2 huge games because they play St. Patrick's Athletic tomorrow night, and then Monday, the day they're up at the Court of Arbitration for Sport, Shamrock Rovers are in town. And that could well be a top-of-the-table clash. Like this should be the continuation of last season's success, a remarkable start to the season from as Kevin Doherty be pointing out, tip for relegation by the majority of pundits to playing top-of-the-table clash midway point of the season and a week when they should be looking forward to a European draw. It's unfortunately overshadowing everything, understandably. On the pitch then, actually, with this double header of games and where Drogheda are, and currently they sit second in the League of Ireland table. They're 6 points behind Shamrock Rovers. They're level on points, but better goal difference than Bohemians. A point ahead of St. Patrick's Athletic and 3 points ahead of Shells and Derry City. It's a big challenge now for Kevin Doherty to try and keep everybody focused, Vinny.
Yeah, it is. I get the point where people say, look, if they lose, people will put it down to that. The players just have to trust the club, and it is what it is. It's like there's not a lot the players can do about it. They've still got a match to prepare for. There'll be a lot of noise around and family, friends, what's happening, all of that stuff. They just got to ignore that and focus on the match. It's a distraction you don't need, but at the same time, once they cross the white line on Friday night, it's not going to change. Or on a Monday again, it's not going to change that. So they have to live in hope that all will get sorted and get on, keep doing what they're doing, because they've been so good for the last 18 months that the real opportunity to get back into Europe the next few weeks, I think, is crucial for that, as all teams continue to struggle to find consistency. To be fair, one of the reasons why Drogheda are where they are is they've been very, very consistent with the results. You go back to the last game against Waterford, late goal, but they stuck at it. They keep doing the right things at the right moments. Got that late goal, and it probably felt like a winner for them heading into the break. They've probably spent 7-8 days on the gargle or on the beach or whatever them words are. And
you were on the beach.
Yeah.
I don't know if you were on the gargle.
I was on the beach in Dublin, though. That's different. That doesn't really count. And there's a water ban. You're not allowed to swim on that beach either. So it wasn't the most pleasant beach we ever went to. But look, I think Drogheda, and touching on Kevin and what they've done, they've I think they came off, and we spoke about it a few weeks back, mix and match. They've got really settled again. Hui playing right centre right off the back three. Healy's been exceptional for them. And the left side centre half, I should know, Andrew Quinn. I actually signed him at Dundalk as a young lad. They've settled back on that sort of back three, sort of stop changing a little bit here and there. And as I said, they've been just in a league that's full of inconsistency. They've been really consistent and just done their job very well. So good luck to them. I hope if Europe doesn't happen this year, I think it would be all rooting for them to get qualified through the league this year.
Yeah. So we're starting the second half of the season, and the transfer window is opening, and clubs are going to be looking around. Shamrock Rovers have already made a move. Go United have made a signing this week. I want a position or a player that you think every club should go and sign over the next few weeks. One, that is, Gareth, okay? Just one. Just one for each club. One.
I have a whole list here. Done.
Just one. Go on. We'd start at the bottom. We'd start at the bottom then, because the team obviously most in need is Sligo Rovers, bottom of the table, a point behind Cork. They're a full 11 points behind Waterford in 8th. Jesus, he's having to dig down deep into his notes there.
Oh, this here, lads. So a position to me, Sligo, you look at Sligo when you look at goals and assists, there's absolutely nothing wrong with them. They are flying when you look at the goals and assists of their front 4 or 5. To me, they need, everybody will talk about Mahan and McElroy in the centre halves. Trust me, they're not a bad partnership. McElroy's doing really well, and what I like about him is chipping on my goals. They need a defensive midfielder. Wolf and Manning, it's not working. They're not comfortable in that position. So that's a position they need. They need it badly. That could plug. And again, Hunrahan, who went to Bowes, was a massive miss. Everybody's talking about losing the forwards. He's the one that's the biggest miss.
Vinny,
Cork and Waterford.
Vinny, who are you going with for Sligo?
I'd probably agree with Gareth there. Defensive midfielder. Obviously, they've tried a couple of things. Jake Doyle Hayes is playing there. Wolf. It just hasn't worked from that position. He's, I would say, the only counter argument to that is maybe McElroy, a young lad, could do it coming out, and if you got a good centre half in beside John Mann. They've probably struggled with the 2 centre halves, but probably a defensive midfielder going forward. They're exceptional. Elding, Will Fitzgerald gives them real pace in wide areas.
All right. What then about Cork City? New management team, I'm sure, looking around. Gareth?
Yeah, I mean, Cork City, good young. The problem with is the goalkeeper might go back on loan, and a couple of other players might go back on loan. So there's not going to be one hole in that team. There could be 3 or 4. But for me, the obvious one is centre midfield going forward as well, especially if Cahill O'Sullivan doesn't get loaned back when he moves to Palace. That would be the position I would look at. Everywhere else, they're pretty solid. And then if they lose a goalkeeper, that would be probably more of a priority if the goalkeeper goes back from his loan.
I think again a centre half is really important there. I think if Sean Murray and Craig Bulger were there, like obviously they've got Shonny Maguire up front, they've got like Cahill O'Sullivan done really well for them, and Daniels is obviously at different stages been exceptional up front. Probably feel like McLaughlin's done okay in midfield. I probably think they could do with a centre half, a real sort of. Obviously, it depends on the goalkeeping situation. But if I was them, I'd be on the lookout for a centre half badly.
Waterford, Gareth.
Waterford centre half, and they don't need one; they need 2. Radowski and Boyle's out injured. You're playing with Leahy and McDonald, centre midfielder and a left back, and centre half. There's a gaping hole there that needs to be addressed.
Vinny?
Yeah, that's self-explanatory. Obviously, Andy Boyle. I think it's a calf injury, and that's been long term. He's been a huge loss to them. So, and a half straightforward. Steve McMullen, actually, shout out to him. I think he's from Dundalk, and he got called into the Northern Ireland international squad, if I'm not mistaken, this week. Went to Fleetwood on loan there. He's done really well for himself. Young goalkeeper, a lot to learn still, but it must have been a wonderful week for him.
Go United then have made a signing already. Malcolm Shaw was announced yesterday. He's a 29-year-old Canadian-born striker, Trinidad and Tobago international. They've had some joy in that part of the world before. They've obviously had some joy with the signing of Moses Dyer as well. And I think anytime they go into the market, you have a trust that they're going to do a good deal. Is that enough for them, or where else do you think they need to look to recruit, Gareth?
Well, Steins is left, so I think that's the direct replacement for him. I honestly think, I was looking through the Galway team, they're the only team that has struggled to say they definitely need that. They're pretty strong, and I think with John and Ollie, they don't just go out and go, right, we need a right midfielder. They'll just go out and get the right attitude and the right player. It doesn't matter where they play, they'll bring them into the group and make it work. So they're the only ones I struggled with.
I'd just say a centre. I'd say a goalkeeper there. I know Brandon Clark is there, and Brandon, brilliant fellow, by the way. I'm not slagging him, but Brandon's nearly 70 for Jay's sake. But he's done brilliant for them, and obviously Evan Watts has played in goal. But I just think the standard of goalkeeping is quietly creeping up in our league, and keepers that can keep clean sheets are obviously huge in football, but it just feels like they need to get over the line with a couple of results, and sometimes it's a keeper being brilliant for a week or 2 or 3 weeks. That's the only position, Gareth, right? They're sort of well set in a lot of positions.
Yeah, I thought Watts was very good actually in their last game in Tala against Shamrock Rovers.
Yeah, but he's been inconsistent, Nathan. That's all. But I don't disagree, John. Against Rovers.
So Malcolm Shaw's played 8 times for Trinidad and Tobago. What to expect was one of the lines on the Go United website. And I'd say you didn't even need to see him play to understand what to expect from John Caulfield, Ollie Horgan signing for a striker. He's a very powerful forward who thrives on hold-up play, aerial duels and attacking movement. He puts hard work first and should fit nicely into the system currently employed with our senior men's side.
I love it. And that's what I'm saying to you. It's just attitude. Class.
The Billionaires Club, Derry City.
Oh, relax yourself, Nathan, now. Come on. We haven't got the biggest budget in the league. I would say, well, it really depends about who's going out. There's going to be a lot of movement, I think.
Is there?
To me...
Why? Explain yourself.
What do you mean?
Why is there going to be loads of movement?
Well, there's going to... Listen, I tell you why there's going to be loads of movement. When the manager comes in and he's late to the party and he signs a heap of players that realistically he hasn't done a lot of homework on, there's going to be a few good ones, there's going to be a few bad ones, and there has been a few good ones. But he's going to then have to move people on to create budget, to get people in. I can see and would like to see a centre half. That's the only position that probably I would see strengthening. But again, if you lose 2 or 3 players, then there's going to be gaping holes. I mean, out of the ones that were signed, I mean, Kevin Holt and Manchester are the 2 best. They've been exceptional. The rest are yet to find their feet, I think.
So you'd sign a centre half, even though you've got Holt, Connolly, and Can, who's done really well for them at different stages.
So Kevin Holt's been brilliant. Conley has been steady enough. Can was brought in as a backup. But you got to remember, Vinny, he's going to play 3 at the back now for the rest of the season. You can't have 3 centre halves. Sam Todd's playing left wing back. You need backup, and you need someone to come in with a bit of pace that can probably fit into them 3, because they're not the quickest.
But Gareth, they need a left back. I understand Doherty is there, but he's injured. He's missed 8 games, came back, got injured again. They need a left back, because if you want the best out of Michael Duffy, you need a good left back behind him who overlaps them, etc. Derry need a left back badly. I don't think they're struggling at centre half. And by the way, I'll try not be a smart arse here, but there's no guarantee they play with a back 3. I mean, they played about 5 systems in the last game against Bulls.
That's because he's been played. So he went to a back 3. He wanted to play it when he first came in. He spent 7 years playing with a back 3 at Larne. Once he came to Derry, he always wanted to play that system. He's got it now, and he got them going quite well. And now he'll want to continue with that. But again,
it's not a Derry podcast, but when you've got Michael Duffy and Gavin White, like, you just play with wingers. Stop. Just play with wingers.
You're preaching to the choir here. I want to see them playing out wide wing, getting at people, but it's just not the way he plays. And you can't fit them in if you're playing 3 at the back.
Will Pat Hoban be there at the end of the transfer window?
I don't think so.
Well, I mean, the answer to that is Derry have to let him go to another League of Ireland club, I would say. And there may be a little bit of fear in that. There is talk of a couple of clubs up north, but I think Pat is a great fit for a couple of other clubs. I've mentioned Bowes before. I think they would benefit from him. But
what about Shells?
Yeah, the question on Shells is an interesting one. The reason why I worry about that is, would Pat work hard enough for what Duffer wants in terms of a press? And Pat's not shy when it comes to hard work. Like, and he because he's got a little bit older, he was never the quickest player around the pitch anyway. And he's a clever footballer, so he can get into the right areas. The only thing I'd say is, like, they've got Boyd. I'm hearing little thoughts of there might be a bit of interest in Boyd. That'd be an interesting one.
From who?
From outside of the league, like, which would be interesting. Whether that happens this year or at the end of the season. Then you look at, they've obviously got Meepo there. Do you add a third striker into that? I'm not sure, but I think where he'd go between now and the end of the season, I think he'd improve Shelbourne. Absolutely, Nathan. I think he would improve them.
So on Shelbourne then, Vinny.
But sorry, the point is, Derry and Shelbourne are competing for a European spot, Nathan. So that's where people's brains work.
I don't, and like you touched on it, Nathan, it's not as if Derry need the money. I don't see him going to a League of Ireland club. I see him going on a loan until January to the Irish League.
Right. What about Shelbourne then? Do you expect it to be a busy window for Shelbourne, Vinny?
I think they do some business, yeah. I think it feels like they're short of... But the obvious one for everybody is the centre half. I get that. Paddy Barrett's returning now, so they'll only know how close he is to properly playing week in, week out. Feels like they're short of a centre half. But I would also say in that forward area, they really, really have missed that sort of in the front 3, whether it's a winger or whatever way Duff decides to play the second half of the season. I feel like they need one more in that forward area. They sort of Ali Coote has done well at different stages, but they obviously haven't replaced Jarvis. They haven't replaced Jarvis, and his big goals last year. That's one. If you said to me if I was in charge of Shelbourne tomorrow and you said you can only sign one player, you might actually not do the obvious thing and sign a centre half. You might go and get yourself a match winner because it feels like the shorter one. Meepo hasn't scored enough goals. Boyd's been injured, and in the forward area they're probably a little bit short. And Someone like, is it somebody coming back into the league potentially, a Georgie Kelly, or is he going to stay away? He's someone that would improve almost every team. So it'd be interesting to see what they do.
What do you think of Shells?
I have the same down here. I mean, Tulloch and O'Kane are the two wingers in the club. Don't seem to be playing. Don't seem to be contributing. He needs to get a winger on there. And I know you mentioned Jarvis, but Burt was a massive loss when he left as well. I mean, you essentially had the two number one wingers at the club that won the league last year left the club.
Was Burt that important?
Yes. Unbelievable. He occupied other defenders for Jarvis as well. If you only go with one winger on one side, like kind of people were going up against Michael Duffy, you just double up on that side and you're completely lopsided. When you have Burt in one wing and Jarvis in the other wing, it stretches the whole defence and the midfield as well, and especially if you keep them wide.
What are you expecting from Pats, Gareth?
Pats at centre half, big time. Hoare, good player. It just hasn't worked out as I would have liked as well. Gravoski is hot and cold. I know that Vinny's going to talk about fullbacks. I think their fullbacks are good enough to go and really put a run together. But for me, centre halves. And if you're being picky, maybe a centre midfielder, a defensive centre midfielder.
Yeah, it does sound as though they're interested in centre backs. I was just going to say that they have three guys there already. I'd heard Conor Masterson's named quite a few times around Pats and the potential of him coming back home. And, I think he's left Gillingham. It's gone quiet over the last few weeks, but even his name, and you'd have to think he'd be coming in as a first choice centre half, was a surprise. He's clearly certainly not convinced by Gravosti, and maybe not fully convinced that Hoare is back to maybe the Hoare he once had.
Yeah, I would say it depends. It depends. Like, to be fair to the ownership of the club, they've backed Stephen in everything he's wanted to do over that period of time he's been at the club. In terms of, he seems to have got everything he wanted. So if he wants another centre half, fine. He's got three good centre halves. Redmond has obviously done really well. I think Redmond has been at fault for a couple of bits and pieces. He's got to go up a level in the next few weeks. Gorowski was basically turfed out of the team for Sean Hoare, and Sean Hoare didn't play well, and then they threw Gorowski back in, I think up in Derry, if I remember, and had a stinker because you lose players when you do that, so it's not easy. I think they're absolutely short in midfield. I think Lennon is nowhere near the level he was last year, for obvious reasons, long-term injury. I've seen people run past him. I've never seen that before. He needs a hand. Forrester's obviously injured. Keane Levy and Brandon Kavanagh have done really well in that number 10 position at different stages, but lack a little bit of consistency before fullbacks, Pats. But I'm not sure any of them get into the top team in the league, or into the top two teams in the league if they end up there. But for me, if you said to me, you're a manager, Pats tomorrow, Nathan, sign a player, I'd have to sign a midfielder, I would say, and make the best with what's there.
All right, let's tear through the last few. Sorry, Gareth. We'll tear through the last few. Bowles.
Georgie Kelly or Pat Hoban.
Georgie will need to come back then. Obviously, Graham now leaving centre half. They're going to have to. That's going to be a difficult position for them. But that and maybe a striker, depending how Mosé gets on or Mosette.
Lee Kavanagh is good enough to play centre half, so I would say a striker.
Okay.
Drogheda's minds may well be elsewhere. For the laugh, they should just bring in about 6 lads from Silkeborg.
They make it worth it.
Yeah, exactly.
And
That's
definitely
payback.
Qualify for Europe, yeah.
That's payback.
I said last week, I mean, I think they need cover in midfield. Dwayne, Brennan, Farrell and Marco would be incredible. But should any of the two of them get injured, suspended, I think there might be a problem. Heaney comes in, he does well when he comes in, but I think if they were going to pick up anything, it would be a centre mid.
Yeah.
Agreed.
We'll agree on that one.
Agreed. So Shamrock Rovers have already made a signing.
Would
John
you not
McGovern.
get Richie Tell? The next time you're with Richie Tell, send him up to, like, you can sponsor him. Tell me do a great job there.
We're trying to get him to do a bit of real work at some stage, but he doesn't seem to have any great interest. We'll see if Richie ends up somewhere, and it'll be even more work for you, Vinny.
Yeah, absolutely. That's why I want him gone.
Do you think Shamrock Rovers need to add?
Yes.
Where?
Wing back, I would say. I think they've done okay there. But remember, Rovers have to go the European route the hard way. They don't have to benefit the Champions route this year. They will be seeded to a point, but it will get tougher as the second and third round come along. I think they haven't replaced Ferrugia for obvious reasons. He's been exceptional. Clark has been injured. Josh Union done really well, obviously, we know that. And Danny Grant has done well intermittently in different stages. But I would say if they could do with a wing-back as close to the level as Ferrugia as possible, is what they should be concentrating on. They've obviously fixed the striker issue. And they also have all the top players back in form. People are saying their young players are playing well. They're playing well because Bourne, Lopez are playing well. So for me, I think the wing back would be important if I was in a transfer meeting with them.
There's been a bit of speculation about Enda Stevens possibly coming home, and I don't know if that is the answer, considering he would probably come back and future-proof them for 18 months in terms of the potential of Honohan or Corey O'Sullivan leaving, and maybe one of those goes this summer. I think the expectation is, both might well end up staying till the end of the season. O'Sullivan potentially the more likely to go this summer, and obviously made his 21s debut. Are we past the stage with Rovers where they can just go and sign, say, someone like Asua at Drogheda United and pick off the best guy in lower down the league?
Why are you asking, are we past that? Well, I don't get what you mean.
What I mean is that the ability, maybe when they made that first great team where they looked around and signed players from other clubs.
Oh yeah.
Like our team's now so well structured actually that Drogheda United go, no, like we're now look, they sold Kazim at left back last year to Pats.
Yeah, I think clubs are better structured, so it's not certainly as easy. If you go back to, say, my time in Dundalk, we signed Darrell Horgan, we signed Duffy. You know what I mean? You'd always sign the best players. Ourselves and Rovers went Darren McAniff when he was coming out Derry. And that's what happens. I think it's a lot more difficult now. I'll just throw a name at you, Nathan. James Brown would make every single team better. He would go into that Rovers team and go, I think they're a better team. But the Enda Stevens one is a great example where he could do that, nothing to lose with it, and he could play right side of a back three or left side of back three if he needed to, depending on who they were playing, different things, and that would release someone like Corey Sullivan. I think he's excited me at wing back when I've seen him. So it'll be interesting to see what they do. But there is players around. It's just if they fit in. But no, your point's well made. I think it's much more difficult to get players out of other clubs now than it once was.
What do you think on Rovers, Gareth?
Yeah, Clark's a big one. It all hinges on him. If he need to get him back from injury. God, he's been out for so long now. They get him back, it solves everything for me. I think they're pretty solid. Getting McGovern in up front as well is a masterstroke. All
right, so tomorrow night, full live commentary, Shelbourne against Shamrock Rovers. We could preview it, but I feel we're going to learn so much from it tomorrow night, lads, as to what Damien Duff has been able to do with his players and whether we're going to see a real rejuvenation from Shells, not just for trying to get into Europe next season, but really trying to deliver in Europe this season. Do you expect a performance from them tomorrow night to wrap up, Gareth?
I expect Shells to be really good. Sorry, real quick. I expect Shells to be really good tomorrow. I think you'll see the proof of what the work Duffer's done in the last week. He's had a full week with the target of this game. I expect Shells. No result would shock me tomorrow night, but I'm going to say I fancy Shells to win tomorrow for no real reason and form, but I fancy Shells to win.
All right, give us your prediction, Gareth, quick.
I don't know where he's going with Shells winning. Rovers have scored 14 and conceded 2 in their last 6 games. Madness. I see it depends. Shells go defensive, same as last year, and try and hold out for a draw or neck of one. But I see Rovers coming away with that 2-0 win.
All right, live on News Talk tomorrow night on your radio from 7 o'clock. Shells against Rovers. We'll have updates from the other games. We'll have League of Ireland late night on Twitter Spaces from 10 o'clock and reaction to all the games on our social channels. We'll be across Monday night's games as well. Gareth, Vinny, thank you as ever.
Thank you.
Cheers, man.
The League of Ireland pod.
On Off the Ball.
Brought to you by the refreshingly alcohol-free Rockshore 00. Get the facts. Be drink aware. Visit drinkaware.ie.